As the world becomes increasingly more hostile to biblical truths, it is crucial for Christian parents to intentionally raise and train up their children in the Lord. Welcome to the Family Path Podcast, where we desire to help you establish a pathway of biblical parenting that seeks to shepherd the hearts of our children toward Christ. My name is Greg. I'm a pastor and father of 8 children.
And I'm his wife, Jocelyn, a physician assistant and homeschooling mom to our kids. Our prayer is that you find family discipleship encouragement here. If you enjoy our podcast, please consider liking, sharing, and/or following us on any social media platform.
Now for today's episode. Well, we're back for another podcast here at the Family Path. We just finished up a birthday celebration here tonight. Evie turned how old?
Yeah, how old did she turn?
6. I love my daughter, I know.
Yeah, it's only because she's been saying it all day.
I did mess it up earlier.
Yeah.
Right in front of my parents. It's like, Evie's 5 today. And she's like, 6.
You're like, yeah, that's
I'm like,
what I
yeah,
meant.
you know, what's it like to finish your 5s?
Yeah.
So we had a little birthday party, a little get together, a little pizza party, and got to celebrate her and enjoy her today. We got to take her shopping, and we do special dates for birthdays. We get to take the kids out for their birthday lunch.
Well, okay, let's clarify. Our special dates, you take the kids for lunch. Because I'm with the kids all the time, and we have a big family, so it's not that easy to get.
Sure.
People aren't just knocking down our door to be like, hey, can I help you with your kids?
Man, I am so excited. Can I take all 8 kids?
Yeah. So, that was something we started a long time ago. Is that you take the kids for
and they
lunch?
Really they look forward to it.
And they get to go.
And they all want to go to Red Robin.
Yeah.
For one reason.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
You would think it'd be the fries.
And it's not the fries. I don't like the fries.
The fries are terrible. But Evie was so excited about it. Yeah.
Because
they get a balloon. Yeah.
I mean, marketing geniuses.
They're homeschooled.
I mean, well, that's true. But it's not even the commercial. They don't even know the yum.
Yeah.
They don't even know the commercials. They just want to go there because they get a balloon.
On a stick.
Yeah. At the end of their meal. Of their
and when
burger.
She came home, everyone was like, where's your balloon?
I know. They can't even talk them into any other place.
Yeah.
So that was my day today. But we're back for another episode here. Easter's around the corner. This is not an Easter episode.
Yeah, it's not really around the corner.
Well, it will be when this airs. You know,
this is going to air in like 4 days.
Yeah, it's
Easter's like 3 weeks away.
That's right around the corner. We're in the month. We are in the month. So it's late here, and Jocelyn wants to fight me on whether or not 3 weeks is around the corner.
It's not around the corner. Around the corner is like next week.
Okay.
To me, in my world.
Well, if you're a planner and a prepper, 3 weeks is around the corner for us. So
for you.
For us, yeah. But we're here with another episode. Last time that we were together, we talked about being worthy to imitate, and I hope you were encouraged by that podcast episode, that you looked at your life and asked yourself hard questions. Am I worthy of being imitating? And then what we're going to hit today is on episode 5, talking about how to weather the storm a little bit. Jesus came, atoned for the sin of the world, and as Christian believers, we have such a great blessing in salvation. But Jesus says some precarious things in John 16:33 when he says that in this life you will have trouble. Mm-hmm. And too many times in our Christian circles, or depending on denominational backgrounds, wherever you come from, I mean, I guess you could land on either side, maybe too much. But the charismatic, the prosperity gospel side of things, it's all blessing. When you listen to those YouTube preachers, the people on just on the TV, asking you to sow $1,000, and you'll have very many blessings and financial gains, financial rewards. They don't like to talk about that Jesus said, in this life you will have trouble. So we're gonna talk about weathering the storm a little bit today. We're gonna look at what it takes to weather the storm, and how to persevere and endure in our faith when things don't necessarily go our way, or when the world is against us, or since this is kind of, we're parents,
Hmm.
when family life is not going the way we want, or maybe there's animosity between spouses, things like that. How do we weather those storms? What do we do for that? So let's talk about how to walk through some hard seasons as Christians. Let's start there. What do you think?
Well, uh, I think specifically for this first, like, well, this really came from. Well, we're in a hard season. If we're just gonna put it out there, we're in a hard season with one of our.
Oh, we're putting it out there.
Yeah.
This this here goes this goes worldwide.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, we're in a hard season with um one, maybe more than one of the kids. I mean, you're always in some hard season. When there's like terrible twos, whatever. It's all
It's
relative,
like when
but
you're rototill in your garden, like you always hit a rock somewhere. It's just like,
right.
yeah, it takes a little bit of work to get through that.
Yeah.
So
So we've been as we're walking through that as parents. I think as parents, like sometimes you face things that like can feel really really detrimental and really heavy, especially because you're putting so much work and effort into raising your kids, and maybe you're really trying to do that as we are in a way that centers their life around God. And then when you start to see them um, walking in certain ways or making certain decisions or whatnot, it's really disheartening because, and then you see all these preachers come up on your, if you're scrolling through Facebook and you feel like, wow, what am I doing wrong that this isn't going well? Or, what did I do? Or what could I have done differently and
mhm,
whatnot? And the reality of the situation is sin exists in the world. And because sin exists in the world, we're going to still have trouble. Like
sure,
Jesus has overcome, but we haven't been completely, I mean, we've been freed from it. But, until Jesus returns, not all things are going to be made new.
sure.
And so,
Yeah, you'll have prosperity gospel people saying like, I don't know why you still call yourself a sinner
right,
because you've been redeemed by the blood of the Lamb, and it's like, yes, but yet Paul still struggles, and
right.
Paul still has to wage war against the things that
Hmm.
he doesn't want to do. So we're still entangled in this sinful flesh that we
Yeah.
have to continuously fight. So it's a both and.
Hmm.
It's not just one way or the other. So I think they got that wrong. I think that's a
Yeah.
little bad theology on their part. But go ahead, I
Yeah.
cut you off there.
No, it's
I
okay.
mean
And
it.
I mean, go ahead.
Good.
It's hard to do. Like you think, okay, so what do I do in this situation where, um, like I said, I think this just came from a place of feeling like, okay, we're struggling with something that feels heavier than just, okay, toddlers are really hard. I'm not trying to say that they're not, but that's like, we say, well, they don't know any better. Now as the kids are getting older, we're struggling with things like, oh no, like I have spent so many years of my life trying to teach them like this isn't right or that's not right or whatever. And then you see them still struggling and you think, okay, what am I doing wrong? And really I think we take our eyes off the situation at hand, and it's not what are you doing wrong, or we should expect these things, I think, first and foremost, but how do I respond in light of it? And just as I've been reading through the Old Testament, just seeing time and time again where we see Israel having been chosen by God to be God's people, and yet God hasn't taken them out of the world. He has left them in this world where sin is still reigning, and the ruler of the world is the devil. And what does God say? Like, okay, all these things that are coming around you, all these trials that you're facing, like you are still called to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to walk obediently to my commands and to seek me, and I will take care of all of it
Hmm.
for you. And so that's just been a really good reminder to me in this season to keep my eyes fixed on Jesus, to keep pursuing God, and to walk obediently to what He has called me to. And I think that's how we weather the storm, which sometimes it feels like, okay, how do we do that? Or how's that going to help you win,
Hmm.
these fights? Or,
Yeah, you put in all that work, and then we sit back. You start, as your kids start growing up and growing older. Um, they have their free will more comes more into play. I
right.
feel like, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like the choices that they make are a bigger deal, and they're trying to figure that out. And that, I mean, that's the biggest thing that we're seeing right now is
Right.
like the free will that he's just experiencing and wrestling with. It's like that's not where we want you to be going. Like the
Right.
things that you're thinking about, the decisions that you're making, the rational thought process is not in tune with the seeds that we've been planting.
Hmm.
And it's really easy, and that's just our example for right now, but it's
Right.
really easy in any circumstance that things don't go your way, or that you have diligently pursued God in a way and thought you did X, Y, and Z so well, and then yet it still didn't go the way that you thought it was. What do we typically do as human beings? We we want a quick fix. We want a
Right.
silver
Hmm.
bullet. We want to look not at the problem, but we want to look for a lot of times a temporary solution or
Hmm.
a quick fix.
Hmm.
And that's the focus of this here today. Um, the Bible, James specifically says, we're basically either going to be defined by our faith,
Hmm.
or we're going to be defined by our trial
Hmm.
and how we operate in either one of those.
Hmm.
So we want to persevere in faith through the trial and let the trial do something for us and to us in it. And that's the big question. As you go through something, as a circumstance is brought about in your life, what is what questions are you asking about to yourself? What's God doing in this?
Hmm.
How can I grow from this? If the Christian life is one of sanctification and progress, being made into the image of Christ, then what's he doing to me in this aspect?
Hmm.
And that's where, to speak into the what you were saying in the Old Testament, and every people group, every time, every people of time, every judge, every king, everything, it's always, you can see we have a choice.
Hmm.
We always have a choice. Because you follow God doesn't extinguish your free will choice. And you have the choice to either obey
Hmm.
no matter the circumstance, or you have the choice to kind of come off the path.
Hmm.
And that's what we see all throughout the Old Testament. Obviously, they can't obey, and they're not following what God's commands are. But
Right.
that's our encouragement today, is to persevere and to be obedient in
Hmm.
that trial.
Yeah, we just as we're reading through the New Testament, we went through the book of James, and I was sitting down the other day just feeling like frustrated, like, God, what are you doing in the midst of all of this? And then you read right in the beginning of James where he says, like, these trials come upon you because they're doing something. They're producing a steadfastness in your faith so that you can be made complete and ready for the day when Jesus returns. And then right after that, he says, if you need wisdom, ask God for wisdom. And it would just like hit me. And it's like, I've read that a million times, but when you're in certain situations in life, you read those things and you realize, wow, okay, this is exact where before I was like, wow, James is sort of all over the place in this. But just to be diligent about praying and asking God, okay, God, exactly like you said. In that moment, I was just like, what are you trying to show me in it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what am I missing here? And then realizing that right after that, he says, for those who endure, um, you will, our reward basically is in heaven. Our endurance and our faith, it produces this steadfastness. We get a stronger faith, and we'll receive the crown of life when Jesus returns, because there's going to be a day when he's going to make everything right. And it will be on that day that we'll look back at these trials, knowing that God has promised to work all things for his children for the good, that we will thank him for that. And you've said to me a couple of times, like, I think this trial is more about you and I and what
Mm-hmm.
God's doing in our lives, maybe more than what he's doing in our child's life. Although I know he's doing a lot in our child's life, but because I think that we have the perspective of looking at this and being like, wow, he's really has that refining fire on my life right now. And he's like
Mm-hmm.
blazing it on me, but it's in that refiner's fire where
Because
you,
I mean, our kid right now, he's pushing my buttons to where
right.
it's like I'm gonna get angry,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I want the solution to come out of my anger
Right.
and
Hmm.
discipline for the things that he's doing. And I think that is a big takeaway, that it's like when you step actually outside of the situation, the circumstance, and you look at it, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I
I,
could probably use some refining
right.
fire on that.
Exactly.
And is
Hmm.
this what it's doing?
To do
You
that.
know?
Right. Yeah, I've thought that so many times. Like, I'll find myself at a place where I'm like, wow, God has really grown me in my patience. And then something like this happens and I'm like, yep, I still need to work on that. Okay. And so I can clearly see that. And then also, we have to trust, like, we aren't just leaving our kid. I mean, we're just talking about our kids specific, but in any situation, we're not just leaving our kids in the hands of a father who doesn't love them and care for them. Like, we are leaving our kids in the hands of a loving father, so loving that he sent his own son
Mhm.
to die for our children. Like, Jesus' blood covers um, everybody's sin. So we can trust God with what he's doing. I remember I read this book by Sarah
We can
May.
trust God in what He's doing for them
Right.
and us.
And for
Like
us. Yeah.
and I think we can do that sometimes to where we're like, wow, this is so oppressive to us.
Mhm.
But He's loving us the same amount as He's loving them at the
Mhm.
same exact time, in the same capacity, in the best way possible.
Mhm.
That we always want to just see one side of it,
Right.
but it's both sides of it that
Mhm.
He's loving.
Yeah, and I remember I read this book once where I think it was by Sarah May. I don't. Anyways, but she said, like, I always pray that nothing would happen to my children that hadn't first passed through the hands of my loving Father. And I was like, wow, that is a really good example, because it obviously leaves it open for whatever is God's will, and then you're just trusting that, yeah, it has passed through God's hands. Like, He holds the sovereignty over all of that, and we can trust Him with that situation. And we have no idea what He could be using to bring about, endurance in their faith and steadfastness in their faith through those trials. So we have to trust him with that. But I think the biggest thing for me that God is showing me through this is, am I willing to be obedient? And because, like you had said, so many times I feel like I can use disciplinary actions to get the response I want, but that is not me going to town at working on cultivating a heart in Him for God, because I see in this storm that I feel like we're facing, I've had countless opportunities to share the gospel, to demonstrate the gospel, and to share about the brokenness of the world and how these are very, like, okay, now you're getting it. Now you see, like, you got to fight this. But that takes a lot more work. That takes a lot more intentionality.
Hmm.
And that is the obedience part on me, because God commands us to teach our children his commands and to raise them in his ways. And so, am I willing to put in that work and effort? And that really requires me not getting angry, not freaking out,
It
but
requires
staying
the fruit. It requires living by the Spirit
right,
and demonstrating the fruits of the Spirit
right,
in our own lives and being obedient to those things. I mean,
right,
that's our call as Christian parents.
right.
And what a benefit, just because I know, I mean, just being a pastor, hearing other stories and where people are at in their lives with their children, what a gift it is to still have, and I don't, this is just all coming to me. This is all fresh
Mhm.
revelation here. But what a gift it is to have a trial while your children are still under your care
Mhm.
and under your roof,
Right.
because you have an opportunity. I mean, that's what it is. It's a great opportunity that they're experiencing a heavy trial under your care so that you can obediently shepherd them through it.
Mhm.
Because I'm just thinking of people that, I pastor and counsel, that the child is old, grown up,
Right.
and
Mhm.
gone, now outside of the care of the
Mhm.
home and the parents. And and a lot of the times that it feels very helpless,
Right.
or hopeless, even
Right.
helpless and hopeless,
Right.
because you can't
You
reach
feel
out,
like you're far
you can't
removed from that
reach out
situation.
and grab them and touch
Mhm.
them, because they're gone, they're removed, and their free will is so great that there's a lot of hurt that can come from that,
Right.
because they're removed from the house. And
Right.
that's so what a blessing it is to be able to not look at a trial in the home
Mm.
as disappointment, or to let it stir up bad emotions or something like that, but an opportunity to be
Yeah.
obedient.
So, well, obviously you know this, but my best friend and I pray every Wednesday together. And a couple of Wednesdays ago, as we were just praying through this situation, which is something I would really recommend, like, have somebody that you can go to war. Obviously, like we made a commitment at the beginning of this, noticing this trial was starting to come upon us. We were like, we are going to pray for him, and we're going to pray for him daily, and then we're going to make sure we're doing our weekly prayer that we were doing. But then I also have a really good friend who I can pour out and talk. She can talk me through these things and then help me also be guided in how to respond and God honoring ways in these situations. But as she was praying a couple weeks ago, like she said the same exact thing. Like she just prayed, like, God, I would just ask that any heavy things our kids face, would you allow them to happen while they're under our roof,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can help them and shepherd them through it, and like allow us to be used by you to lead our kids to you, because we do have the opportunity to show them like how great our God is and how good he is in these situations, and really just shepherd that and nurture it. And yeah, it seems a lot scarier when they're outside of the home, but if you're in that situation where they are not home, like, you are not hopeless, and that's the beautiful thing
Mm-hmm.
of it. It's really just our
Feels that way, but
yeah,
you're not.
yeah, because you're never too far lost to, or too far gone from a situation to, I mean, you can still pray for them, you can still pursue them, you can still show them godliness and how you're responding to those situations and whatnot.
Still
um
walk in obedience to your faith.
yeah, absolutely. Even more so when you take a harder stand. Like, it's easier here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're,
Mm-hmm.
because he's here all the time, or she, whoever it is. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the
Mm.
one of the key takeaways is don't trade in obedience or the greater reward that's maybe down the road
Hmm.
because it's going to take a little bit of work. Don't trade that in for a quick fix
Right.
or a silver bullet of some kind,
Hmm.
or even anger or emotions or like things like that. It's just
Hmm.
not worth. Be encouraged to stop and look past the problem and see where it could go and the benefits that could come out of it, and seek those results and put the time and effort into being obedient to your faith to pursue fixing it that way instead of
Yeah.
something that's quick and quick remedy.
Because obedience oftentimes is going to take a lot more work. It's going to take a lot more
Well, that's why
effort.
Paul says it's perseverance. Like
Right.
when you start thinking about perseverance and obedience hand in hand, it's a grind. Like you
Because
think of
obedience
a,
is like living by the spirit and not by the flesh. And exactly like you were talking about, it is very easy to want to get frustrated and then to work all the things we have in our midst and in our power. Like, we can take all these things away from you, we can make your life miserable, we can do all these things to get the response that we want
and
right
those
now.
things may need to happen.
Yeah, yeah, it's not that they don't have, they certainly do still happen. But when you come at doing those things in anger and you're not pursuing trying to change their heart while you're also doing it, all you're doing is going to gain a temporary reward, and you have then cashed in the greater reward for that which is temporary and fleeting, and ultimately not cultivating a heart that's centered on God and not a heart that is being led toward that situation, so that when the problems get bigger, they're going to look for that which is temporary rather to that which is eternal. Because like, just thinking in our situation, like, he is struggling um, in a way that feels like suffering to him,
Mhm.
you know? And we want him to know that, yeah, and like we're trying to relate on, this does feel like suffering, but God is still good in it. If we just allow him to feel the suffering and then cover the suffering with some temporary reward that we get the behavior, then he just thinks, well, life sucks and I'm just going to suffer here on this earth
Mhm.
all the time. Like, he doesn't get the part where, but Jesus came to die for you
But you're
because he
blessed.
knows that suffering is awful and
It's
he
it's
has
that
something better for
it's
you.
that eternal blessing, and it's kind of how we stand encouraged in the storm here
Mhm.
is not only in and so you separate the parent and child at this point, or parent and whatever trial there is. Um, you stand encouraged in the storm when your joy and your hope are fixed on
Mhm.
Jesus Christ. And if you don't, that's where it's difficult when you look at the suffering in the world. It's like, and that suffering is just pure suffering. And
Mhm.
that's why Christians suffer different than non-Christians.
Mhm.
I mean, it's pure turmoil for a non-Christian to go through suffering when they
Right.
have no hope in something that's so much greater.
Mhm.
That's the blessing that we started off with, that many people just want to focus on the blessing that we have, this eternal hope that's secured for us in heaven that nobody can take away because the Father loves us so much that we're children of God. We need to point ourselves to that. And then also for our instance, like that's the same future hope that we get to point our child to as well. So that's the
Yeah.
encouragement.
I would say 2 Corinthians 4:16-18 is one we've had our kids memorize it because it's one that we often use in our own life. I'll just read it. So we do not lose heart, though our outer self is wasting away. Our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison, as we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal. And really, I don't know how you can add anything to that, but of course you can't. But it really goes to show God knows what he's doing. Like, we don't need to lose heart because that day by day is this sanctification that we're walking through in this situation. And yet God says it's a light momentary affliction, and he's not trying to nullify the fact that we think that it's hard. He's saying, in comparison to what you will experience in glory with me someday, his promise is this is light.
Yeah,
This is
matter.
right. And it's doing something to prepare us
Which is
for
hard
more
to
glory
hear
later.
when you're in it.
Right.
But be encouraged. I mean, we'll end here. If you're in that trial or you're suffering with something, it's momentary to some degree. I mean, it doesn't feel like that,
But it's doing something
it's
as
doing
well.
something in you, and it's just a short period of time.
Yeah. Ask God for the wisdom. Like, show me what this is doing. How can
Help
I
me persevere through it. Help me grow in it. Help me become a better Christian, a better follower of Christ in it. Help me stay obedient in it. And that's the prayer. So be encouraged if you're going through something. Seek God. Remember the gospel in your life
and walk obediently.
and walk obedient. As hard as it is, fight the fight that needs to be fought.
Yeah. And if you need to know, how do I be obedient? Just pick up God's word and he'll tell you. He'll give it to you. Yeah. Just read it, know him, and just keep chasing him.
Well, that's where we're ending this one here today. We've had a couple good, and we've been posting a couple of the soap episodes. One of them caught more steam than
right because of the translation that we use.
Well, I'm just saying one caught like there for some reason the algorithms grabbed ours and we had probably 1,000 views on it.
Yeah.
When we usually only have a couple hundred, and
or 25.
Or 25, yeah, sometimes. But there was a lot of concern about how we are being disobedient by reading our children the ICB method.
Well, not even the ICB. We're reading anything other than the King James, because what you were reading with there, I think, was
it was the ICB.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the International Children's Bible. So we're gonna answer some of those. Yeah, spoiler alert. We're gonna do an episode here in the future here sometime. Yeah. Kind of digging in a little bit deeper about.
It's right around the corner.
Yeah, it's right. It could be right around the corner for me. It's a couple months if you want.
So check back in 6 months.
Yeah, we're gonna dig in on our views on the KJV and translations, and just give you some interesting things that you may or may not know, and their viewpoints, and then our I'll say biblical viewpoints
where we landed on that.
If that's a little, there's a spoiler alert for you. But another thing that we did, we kind of released the pathway cards, and they turned out great.
Yeah.
We had a few orders on this, and they've been going out. People have been using them, hearing good things about that, and we're gonna do a giveaway.
Yeah.
So we'll try to.
You got mouse in your pocket?
Now I've just committed ourselves to doing a giveaway here, but we're gonna do something fun with these. So please keep an eye out for Instagram and social media for how to register for that, to like, share, and follow us. But do that anyhow, so that we can reach more people, and that people, if you find this encouraging at all, share it with somebody that you think needs to hear it today, and it'll keep us growing and hopefully being able to do this. So until next time. It's a wrap.